The fire plan that added a floor. Floor 21, Episode 5. In my line of work, buildings lie all the time. Not out loud. Not in ways you can record. On paper they look fine. The blueprints line up, the numbers add correctly, the signatures are all there. But when you walk them, when you follow every stair and door with your own feet, you start to feel where something has been moved, or hidden, or quietly forgotten. I'm a fire and life safety consultant. Most people just call me the fire guy. My job is simple on paper. Make sure people can get out when they need to. And make sure the building matches the pretty evacuation diagrams in the frames. If the diagrams say there are 20 floors and 2 stairwells, then that's what there should be. This building was supposed to be routine. The property manager called me on a gray Tuesday. "We need the fire plans updated," he said. "New code requirements, some renovations, that kind of thing." His voice sounded tired in the way I've heard from a lot of managers. "What's the address?" I asked. When he read it out, I recognized the street. Mid-rise cluster, older stock, a few problem properties. "Any special issues?" I added. There was a short pause on the line. "Some tenant complaints," he said. "About the stairs. People say the stairwells feel longer at night. It's probably nothing. I just want everything clean on paper. People say the stairs feel longer." That was the kind of sentence that made the hair on the back of my neck shift. But I just said, "All right. I'll come by tomorrow." The lobby looked like it had been renovated more recently than the rest of the building. New tile. New paint. An artificial plant trying its best in a corner. Above the mailboxes, a framed evacuation diagram showed a neat rectangle of hallways and 2 bold red stairwells labeled Stair A and Stair B. Floors 1 through 20. No surprises. The property manager met me by the front desk. "Sawyer?" he asked. I nodded and shook his hand. He introduced himself as Harris. Dark circles under his eyes, tie loosened, the familiar busy anxious look of someone juggling too many minor emergencies. He led me to a small office where he had laid out the building's documentation. Old blueprints. New mechanical drawings. Fire alarm verification reports. We had some oddities, he said, flipping to a stack of floor plans. Stair pressurization, exit signage. I want to make sure we're covered for the next inspection. I spread the drawings out on the table. Floor 1. Floor 2. Up to floor 20. Each one showed 2 stairwells on opposite ends of the building, with little black rectangles for the fire doors. I traced the stairs with my pen. Ground to second. Second to third. Each riser, each landing, each door. Everything matched code. At least, on paper. "Any older drawings?" I asked. "Original construction, before renovations." He hesitated, then reached under the table and pulled out a rolled-up tube. "These were here before I started," he said. "We don't use them anymore, but I haven't thrown them away." He handed me the tube. Inside were yellowing plans stamped with a date from more than 20 years ago. I unrolled the sheet labeled Typical Floor Plan, Levels 3 to 21. 21, I said quietly. Harris rubbed the back of his neck. "That mechanical level on the roof never got built," he said too quickly. "They renumbered before occupancy. At least that's what the file says." "Does the elevator skip a number?" I asked. "No," he said. "It goes 1 through 20. Clean. Guests don't like missing floors." He stared at the old plan as if hoping it would fold itself back up. "Maybe they just reused the template," he added. Maybe they did. But someone had taken a red pen and scratched a thick line through the 21 on the title block. Someone else had circled a note near the stairwells that read, "Adjust landings between 19 and 20. No one had signed next to that change. Buildings keep multiple sets of records. There is the tidy set in the manager's office. There is the less tidy set in some forgotten basement room. And there are the unwritten records in the heads of the people who work there. I'd like to see your stairwells, I said. Both of them. We started with stair A, near the lobby. The door had the usual metal frame, panic bar, and a fresh sticker showing maximum occupancy. I checked the closer, the latch, the clearance. Then we stepped inside. The air was cooler and carried that mix of dust and human breath that all busy stairs share. Concrete walls. Metal handrails. Emergency lights every few flights. I like to walk buildings the way people would in an emergency. No elevator. No shortcuts. So we climbed. As my boots hit each step, I counted under my breath. Flights between floors. Landings. Doors. Between 1 and 2. Between 2 and 3. The rhythm was correct. Rise, run, landing. Repeating. At the landing for 18, I paused. The ceiling above had a broad, irregular water stain, the kind that says, "I was a small leak once, and someone decided I wasn't worth fixing properly." Got a plumbing issue? I asked. Harris sighed. Maybe, he said. We've had people look at it. They say it's just condensation from an old line that was capped off. It keeps coming back. I marked it on my notes. Above that, between 18 and 19, the walls looked freshly painted. Too freshly. The paint was a slightly different shade of off-white, not something you'd notice unless you spent a lot of time measuring walls. There used to be graffiti, Harris offered. We covered it. I ran my hand along the surface. Smooth. No bumps where an opening might have been patched. We climbed to 19. The door to the 19th floor hallway had a standard metal sign, 19. Everything matched the drawing. Between 19 and 20, the stairs turned in that familiar half square. 2 runs, 1 mid-landing, and then the door to 20. At least, that is what the plans said. Halfway up to the mid-landing, my legs told me we had done this turn before. I stopped. How many landings between 19 and 20 in stair A, on paper? I asked. Harris frowned. 1 mid-landing, 1 door, he said. Same as the other floors. Right, I said. I went back down 3 steps and counted aloud. 1, 2, 3. When I reached the landing, the number in my head was higher than it should have been. And the landing itself felt wrong. The concrete here was slightly darker, as if it had been poured later. The handrail bracket on the wall was from an older style, not matching the ones below. On the wall, there was a frame meant to hold a small sign for the floor level. It was empty. Was there ever a door here? I asked. Harris shook his head, too quickly. Not as long as I've been here, he said. The door is up there. He pointed to the next flight. The door to 20 was exactly where it should have been. The sign said 20. I opened it, checked that it swung freely, then closed it again. On the way back down, I tapped the empty frame on the extra landing. It rattled slightly. Something inside it shifted, like paper sliding against glass. Back in the office, I asked if there were any other records related to the stairs. Old inspection reports. Fire drill logs. Anything. He pulled a cardboard box from under the desk. These are from before my time, he said. Old fire drill sheets, guard notes, that kind of thing. I dug through the bundle. Most of it was dull. Checked alarms. Checked extinguishers. Everyone out in 6 minutes. Then I found a thin logbook with a torn front cover. Fire watch/stairwell checks. The first few pages were neat. Dates. Signatures. Stairwells clear. Doors self-closing. No obstructions. Then, about halfway through, the handwriting changed. The notes became less tidy. More personal. Noise heard between 18 and 19, no source found. Extra turn in stair A. Recount tomorrow. A few entries later, a name I recognized from one of the old incident emails. Lee. Under one late night entry, someone had written. Stairwell feels like more landings between 19 and 20 during fire drill. Counting inconsistent. Possible misprint on plans. Check with city. No one had initialed any follow-up. The next page had been ripped out. Only the torn edge remained in the binding. Harris shifted in his chair. I shouldn't even have that, he said quietly. It should have been archived. Or shredded. Then why isn't it? I asked. He didn't answer. For the second part of my assessment, I needed to verify that the posted evacuation diagrams matched reality. We walked the floors together. On each level, near the elevators and stair doors, there was a frame drawing with a red dot and the words "You are here." I compared them to my notes. Floors 3 through 17 matched perfectly. On 18, the diagram showed that part of the floor was blocked off for renovations, and the path of travel nudged people around that zone. On 19, there were a few more units, a slightly different hallway layout, but the stairs were in the same positions. On 20, the diagram looked like a simpler version of 19. 2 stairs. 1 hallway loop. No extra doors. When we came back down to the lobby, I noticed something that hadn't registered the first time. In the bottom right corner of the framed diagram was a tiny text block with the revision history. Rev 0, issue for occupancy. Rev 1, new tenant layout FL 12 to 15. Rev 2, renovation FL 18. Rev 3, stairwell notes FL 19 to 20. Can I see the Rev 3 file? I asked. Harris looked genuinely uncertain. If it's on the server, sure, he said. Our last consultant handled that. We pulled up the digital copy on his computer. In Rev 3, the diagram of 19 and 20 had been edited with a red cloud around stair A. The note read: clarify landing count. Additional intermediate landing may require label. The cloud was there. But the label field was empty. Someone had started to mark an extra landing and then stopped. No reason. No signature. Just an unfinished thought. Under the code, if there is any doubt about egress routes, we sometimes recommend a live drill. People hate them. Managers hate the disruption. Tenants hate the alarms. But drills show you things that plans never can. I'd like to observe your next fire drill, I said. Especially the upper floors. Harris grimaced. We're due for one, he admitted. I was hoping to put it off. But maybe it's better to get it over with. He checked his calendar. Next Wednesday night, he said. Less people home. Less complaints. I told him I'd be there. On drill night, I arrived just before 9 p.m. The building felt different in the dark. The lobby lights were dimmed. The plant in the corner cast a warped shadow on the wall. Tenants trickled through with groceries, laundry, the tired steps of people coming home from work. I introduced myself to the security guard on duty and checked in with Harris. He handed me a small portable radio. I'll be in the lobby with the fire panel, he said. You can take stair A and ride it up before the drill starts. Watch the movement from above. I nodded. In real fires, people behave unpredictably. In drills, they follow the person in front of them. I wanted to be in the middle. We agreed I'd start on 19. I took the elevator up, even though I prefer the stairs when I'm alone, just to save time. On 19, the hallway was quiet. A TV flickered behind one door. A faint smell of someone's cooking hung in the air. I checked my watch. 2 minutes to alarm. I stood by the door to stair A and waited. When the alarm went off, it was the usual harsh, pulsing tone, followed by the pre-recorded voice telling everyone to leave calmly. Doors opened. People stepped out into the hallway, grumbling, rolling their eyes, clutching phones. I held the stair door open and directed them in. Use the stairs, please. No elevator. Stair A is clear. Some went quickly. Some slowly. A few tenants nodded at me with that resigned look that says, "We know this is necessary, but we hate it." I stepped into the stairwell after a group, letting the door close behind me. The sound of feet on concrete filled the space. Down from 19 to 18. Down from 18 to 17. Everything felt normal. By the time we restarted the drill for the upper floors, half an hour had passed. Harris wanted to test a scenario where a fire alarm started on 18 while people were on 20. For that, I repositioned myself. I took the elevator to 20, then walked up one more flight alone just to feel the stairs. Or what I thought was one more flight. I counted. From 19 to the mid-landing. One flight. From the mid-landing to the next door. Another. From the door to the landing above. A half flight. More than there should have been. My feet said we were higher than the plans said we should be. The little floor level indicator screwed to the wall on the landing had a printed card behind the plastic. It said, Level 20. But around the edges of the card, I could see the faint shadow of older ink. A 1 beside the 20, partially scrubbed out. Making it 21 that no one wanted to acknowledge. My radio crackled. Starting upper drill in 2, Harris said. You in position? Yeah, I said. In stair A between 19 and 20. The words felt wrong as I said them. The stairwell hummed with the distant sound of the elevators cycling to ground. Alarm. Again, the recorded voice. Doors opening above and below. Footsteps. On the landing below me, the door to 19's hallway banged open. People poured in, moving down, passing me in clusters. I watched their faces. Annoyance. Sleepiness. Mild amusement. No one seemed to notice anything unusual. As they passed the landing where I stood, some glanced at the sign that said Level 20. Then kept going down. But their feet kept taking more steps than they should have to reach 18. My count slipped. The space between 19 and 18 stretched, like a rubber band pulled just past where it should stop. I gripped the handrail. The air felt colder. On my radio, Harris's voice sounded distant. Stair flow looks good on camera, he said. A little slow between 19 and 18, but acceptable. You seeing anything? I looked up. For a moment, the stairwell seemed to have more turns than usual. Too many right angles stacked on top of each other. Then it snapped back. Just congestion, I said. After the drill, we gathered in the lobby. Harris printed the event report from the fire panel while I filled out my evaluation form. Evacuation time. Acceptable. Alarm audibility. Good. Stairwell behavior. Normal with minor delays. The kind of dry language that keeps insurers happy. But my note for stair A between 18 and 20 was less tidy. Perceived additional landing. Floor indicator shows 20, but underlying marking suggests 21. Recommend further investigation of as-built conditions. I stopped, pen hovering over the paper. It sounded crazy even to me. Is there still access to your original as-built set? I asked Harris later. He sighed. There's a storage room in the basement, he said. Old files. We can look. The room in the basement smelled like dust and cold concrete. Metal shelves held boxes of paper, some labeled, some not. It took us 20 minutes to find the set stamped as built, final. Floor plans, stair details, notes. On one of the stair detail sheets, there was a drawing labeled Typical Stair A, level 17 to 21. Someone had crossed out the 21. Below the drawing, a note read: Top landing between 19 and 20 adjusted. See architect's sketch. There was no sketch. Just a faint rectangle where something had been taped once and removed. In the margin, in a different ink, someone had written, very small. Landing added. Label later. No one had. I could have stopped there. Marked the odd note as a clerical error. Recommended a generic field verification. But the pattern of complaints, longer stairs, strange feelings, odd notes in the old fire watch log bothered me. Have you ever had anyone get lost in the stairs? I asked casually. Harris hesitated. Not lost, he said. Confused, maybe. A tenant once swore she came out of stair A on the wrong floor even though the door said 19. A cleaning contractor complained that the stairs between 19 and 20 didn't match her count from the day before. Marta? I asked, remembering the name from one of the newer cleaning contracts. He looked surprised. You know her, he said. I know her notes, I replied. He nodded slowly. She quit last month, he added. Said she was getting too old for the stairs. It sounded reasonable. It also sounded like something someone would say when they had seen more of a building than they wanted to. On my last day of assessment, I decided to walk stair A alone, outside of drills, one last time. No tenants. No alarms. Just concrete, metal, and me. I started at the lobby. Up past the low numbers. The familiar burn in my legs. The rhythm of steps, landings, doors. When I reached 18, I stopped and looked up at the stained ceiling. The watermark had a defined edge now, like a ring. As if something circular had once pressed against the concrete from above. I kept climbing. Past 19. Half turn. Landing. Half turn. The extra landing was there again. This time, a small, temporary fire plan had been taped to the wall beside the empty frame. It was a black and white printout, probably from an old PDF, shrunk down. You are here, said the little dot. Next to it, a floor label in block letters. Level 2021st. The slash looked like it had been added by hand. Beneath the diagram, someone had signed in tiny script. S. My initial. But I had never printed that drawing. I hadn't signed anything yet. My throat felt dry. I reached out and touched the paper. The ink smudged faintly under my fingertip, as if it had been printed only moments ago. My radio, clipped to my belt, crackled. A voice I didn't recognize whispered something I couldn't make out, then cut to static. I unclipped it, checked the display. The channel was on the same frequency as before, but the ID of the transmitting unit was blank. The little icon on the screen, usually a neat stair symbol, flickered for a second between 20 and 21. I turned it off. I didn't want to hear anything else. In my official report, I wrote what I had to. Stairwells present 2 exits from every floor, doors self-closing and latching. Alarm system functional. Evacuation diagrams in place. Recommend minor revisions to clarify landing count between levels 19 and 20 in stair A. Recommend monitoring tenant complaints for patterns. No mention of the extra landing that appeared and disappeared. No mention of the ghost of a 21 under the printed 20. No mention of the fact that, when I left the building that last day and glanced at the framed diagram in the lobby, I could have sworn the stack of floors showed one more rectangle than before. On the drive home, my phone buzzed with an email notification. It was from my own drafting software. Subject, autosave, floor plan revision. I hadn't opened that file. The attachment was a low-resolution preview thumbnail. In the preview, the building's schematic stack of floors had a faint, extra line between 19 and 20. The label beside it said, Level 20 21st, Stair A. I deleted the email. Then, a few seconds later, the phone buzzed again. The same subject line. The same attachment. This time, when I opened it, the extra line was gone. Just 20 floors. Clean. I stopped checking after that. I still do my job. I still walk stairwells, count landings, check that doors open when they should. I still tell myself that buildings cannot really lie. They can only reflect the lies people tell about them. But in the back of my head, there is a quiet new rule I have added, just for me. If the plans and the stairs disagree, and the disagreement lies between 19 and 20, I don't try to fix it. I just make sure the doors open toward the lobby. And I let whatever lives in that extra space keep its own version of the fire plan. This story is a work of fiction, created purely for entertainment. Any resemblance to real people, buildings, or events is purely coincidental.